Hi everyone, my name is Bailey Hildebrand, and for my presentation, I chose to talk about rabbit nutrition and digestion. The rabbit is a lagomorph, and this order also includes pikas and hares. Rabbits are non-ruminants, but they are herbivores. They're pretty much found all over the world, and since they're all over the world, they are considered to be different species in each area. And then they're found everywhere except for Antarctica. Usually they're found in the woods, forests, meadows, grasslands, deserts, tundra, and wetlands. And then the wild rabbits usually tunnel into the ground in what is called warrens. And a warren is a burrow that consists of random networks of tunnels, dens, and bolt holes in which the rabbits can escape. And then I put a picture of what a warren actually looks like on the slide so you can get a better idea. The family structure of a rabbit is obviously different in the wild than it would be compared to a domesticated rabbit. And the rabbits in the wild typically live in groups in their warrens, like I said before. And in the warrens, there can be up to about 30 rabbits at one time. There is usually a structure hierarchy in the warrens that contain a dominant female and a dominant male, and there could possibly be more than one dominant rabbit of each, but there are mostly subordinate rabbits that rank lower than these. The dominant does will fight over the best nesting spots and are usually the most successful with breeding compared to the subordinates. And the dominant bucks will mark their territory by doing things like rubbing their scent on the ground or scratching at the ground or leaving droppings around the warrens. The subordinate rabbits usually don't acquire territory at all due to the dominant rabbits running them out of their own areas. The does can produce up to about 20 offspring in a summer, and usually there is no involvement from the father, and it's completely up to the mother to raise the babies. And usually the babies are only cared for by the mother for a short amount of time, and then they're on their own. So for the life cycle, there are only a few stages, and this includes the newborn stage, the kit stage, and the adult phase. So the newborn stage is about 3 months long, and during this time, the baby rabbit mostly gets the nutrients needed from the mother's milk. And then from 3 to 12 months is usually the kit stage, and the rabbit continues to gain nutrients from the mother's milk, as well as starting to eat more solid foods like hay and pellets. And then when weaning, the small amounts of high quality forage should be provided, such as green hay instead of the dried hay is probably a better option, and then small amounts of pellets to allow the digestive tract to adapt. And then during the growth phase, like usually about a minimum of 12 to 16% of crude fiber and crude protein at 16 to 18% is needed for the growth of the rabbit. And in the adult stage, the rabbit should be provided with a variety of hay, greens, and small amount of pellets. And then the age of the rabbits really depends and varies, but domesticated rabbits typically live from 8 to 12 years, and wild rabbits usually live about 1 to 2. The digestive system of a rabbit is pretty different to most animals, but it is most similar to a horse's digestive tract, and they both seem to require a sufficient amount of fiber to function correctly. It also has some differences to it, though. The digestion begins in the mouth of the rabbit, which consists of two incisors on the top and bottom, and sharper molars further back, which grinds and macerates the forage materials that they eat. The food then moves through the esophagus to the stomach, where acid and enzyme digestion of protein occurs. Then it goes on to the small intestine, and the small intestine is responsible for absorbing nutrients from the food, and as it moves through, the enzymes break down the food into individual nutrients that are then absorbed into the bloodstream. Fiber usually isn't broken down in most mammals, so it would then go on through the colon and would exit the body as waste, but it's a little different in rabbits, and the colon sorts the fiber into two types, which would be digestible and indigestible. The digestible fiber has nutrients inside it, so the colon sends it on to the cecum for processing. And the indigestible fibers don't have any nutrients left, so it leaves the body as waste. And so this is a unique feature in the digestive tract, and it's the circular structured cecum, which is a colony of special bacteria that ferment the digestible fiber, and it breaks it down to release the nutrients. The cecum absorbs some of the nutrients, but most need to go back through the small intestine to be absorbed. And to achieve this, the fermented fibers move back into the colon and it's coated in mucus, which then leave the body as waste, and it's called the cecotrope droppings. So it's a little different than the other droppings that they usually have. And the rabbit sometimes will eat these droppings to get the rest of the nutrients out of the droppings. For the balancing of a diet for the rabbit, I chose alfalfa at 19% crude protein, romaine lettuce at 2% crude protein, and 5% of supplementation. And the rabbit seems to need a high fiber diet to maintain the normal circadian rhythm for the cecotrope production and to keep the digestive tract healthy, so I chose foods that were higher in fiber. Rabbits also need about 12 to 15% crude protein, so I balanced the equation for 15%. So I chose alfalfa as it has a high amount of crude fiber at about 30% and about 19% of crude protein. And the second food I chose was romaine lettuce because it's overall better than other types of lettuce as some contain toxic compounds that obviously are toxic to rabbits. And then the romaine lettuce also has more vitamins and more fiber than other greens. Um, Romaine lettuce also can be a source of both vitamin C and vitamin K, as well as good source of fiber. And then the calcium to phosphorus ratio for this balancing of the diet was about 3 to 1, so it's not too bad, but the ideal is about 1.5 to 1 or 2 to 1 for calcium to phosphorus. So it might be a good idea to supplement some phosphorus into the diet. Here are my references for the pictures as well as the information. Thanks for listening.